today I'm going to talk about something that has been increasingly popular, and it is the basic rules of Pokemon, and I just dropped my deck. But the first thing I wanted to start out with, and yes, it's on a board, is the basic things for a deck. And the first basic thing is a Pokemon deck is made out of 60 cards, based up of basic cards, basic Pokemon, stage 1 and 2 Pokemon, EXs, Mega EXs, GXs, target, tag team EXs, GXs, and Prisms. And I have a few different ones. So this is a Prism, and how you tell it's a Prism is this symbol. And how you tell, it's also Mega or Primal EXs, Mega EXs, but usually they're just Megas. And if it's a Primal, it will say Primal. If it's just a Mega, it says Mega EX. And the trainers they're supporters. It will say trainer, supporter. And if it's just a trainer, it will say trainer item. And then there's a basic Pokemon. It says basic in the corner. A tag team will say 2 Pokemon names, GX, and then tag team. A regular EX will either have a gold border or no gold border, just a black border, and it has a name, and then EX. And then this is just a Mega EX. It will have an M, and then the Gyarados EX, or any Pokemon. And then this is a regular GX, where it has its name, and then GX. Now, I want to go over the basic things so you have a 60 card deck, and when you start a game, you pull 7 cards into your hand, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See, there's 7 cards, and you want it to consist of, you have to have at least 1 basic Pokemon, and if you have 1 basic Pokemon, you cannot reshuffle the hand, but if you don't, you automatically have to. But you also want it to have, a supporter item and some energy, and maybe, 1 or 2 basics. But, holographic. And then, when you have a basic Pokemon in your hand, then you set up what's called prize cards. You set them up in any way you want, but there has to be 6 of them. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'll go over, if it is a basic stage 1, stage 2, when you knock it out, because it has health, see, this one has 170, when damage exceeds or hits 170, it's knocked out. And since it is a GX, you draw 2. But if it is a basic stage 1 or stage 2 without an EX GX, then you draw 1 prize card. EXs and GXs and Megas are 2 prize cards. And then tag teams are pretty cool. They are very new because it just came out last set, but tag teams are worth 3 prize cards. And they always have a lot more health and really ridiculous attacks, but moving on. And then there's another thing that is very important to decks, and it's called abilities. How you tell if it's an ability is it will not have an energy symbol and it says ability. Like this, I chose this one because it's really cool. We went to a pre-release today, and this is one of the cards I pulled. But it says, once in your turn, before you attack, which is when you do damage, you may flip a coin. If heads, you put 3 damage counters, or 30 damage, onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you use this ability, your turn ends. But what's cool about this is it can be your active or your benched Pokemon. Usually your benched Pokemon cannot attack, but your active can. And what's cool about this, and you also don't even have to attack the person's active Pokemon, you can also attack the bench. But that is cool that you can do it from the bench because it's a really weak Pokemon. And this is another, the Prisms also only usually have abilities, but I'm not going to go over the abilities with the Prisms because they're confusing. And another thing I wanted to go over is burn, poison, confusion, paralyzed, or sleep. And what those are there's something called special conditions. And someone does it to you to kind of stall you to like evolve their Pokemon or attach more energy or do more damage to you. And say this was my active Pokemon. If it is burned, then I don't have a burn counter, but it's a little like Band-Aid cross. They put it on there, and since their turn ends, I get 20 damage or 2 damage counters. And then I flip a coin, and if it's heads, it's no longer burned. But if it's tails, I keep the burn, and even if I did lose a burn, I still keep the damage. And then say I play my turn, I play all these cards, and I end my turn. I take 20 damage, and then I have another chance to flip a coin. Even if I get heads, it's the same thing. Heads, it goes away, or I keep it if it's tails. I still keep the damage no matter what. Only if it stays, then at the end of the person's turn, I get more damage. Now, and now for poisoned, it's kind of the same thing. It has a little poison counter, like a skull and crossbones, and it's green. It doesn't really matter what color it is. And so it has that on, and at the end of every turn, you get 1 damage. But the only way to lose the special condition is to retreat it, and it will how you retreat it is it says retreat, and it has these 2 symbols, and that's how many energy you have to sacrifice or put into your discard to be able to retreat it. Or if you have a card saying otherwise, you can retreat it. Or if it's knocked out, it also loses the special condition, obviously. And then paralyzed and asleep are a little confusing. Don't take my word for this, but I'm sure paralyzed is this way. And how paralyzed works is if you're paralyzed, if you don't retreat it, I don't think you can retreat it without a card. And then you can't attack from this position. If you have a card to retreat it, you retreat it, and the special condition's off. But at the end of your turn, it ends, and then it goes back upright. And at the end, and then your next turn, you can attack, unless you're paralyzed again. But asleep is its turn the other way. Now, just like burned, you have to flip a coin. Only the thing is it does not take any damage unless direct damage from a Pokemon. So you flip a coin before your turn starts. If heads, it's awake. If tails, it's asleep. And then same when your turn ends, and so on. And then confused is upside down. And how you get it unconfused is you either retreat it or remove the special condition with a card. But you can still, one cool thing is unlike asleep or paralyzed, you can still attack. But the thing is you have to flip a coin to attack. If it is heads, the attack goes through. If tails, then the attack fails and you do 30 damage to yourself. But again, if you retreat it, bring it down to your bench, I'm going to explain that later, then the special condition is removed. And then I'm going to talk about attacks. And what an attack is so this has 2 attacks, well technically 3, I'll go over GX attacks later. So like this one has this symbol and these symbols. This means a dark energy, and that's a specific energy, but these are colorless, so you can use any type of energy for this. And, they have names, but it doesn't matter what the name is. And then, so, usually it's just an attack, but sometimes it has something that goes along with attack. And then this is how much damage it does. Like, I do Absorb Valley, and I do 20 damage to the Pokemon, and heal this Pokemon the same amount of damage you did to your opponent's active Pokemon. And then with this one, I just attach 3 random energies. And one thing, you can only attach 1 energy per turn, unless you have an ability or card that says otherwise. And it does 100 damage. This attack damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance. And now this is a good thing to talk about weakness or resistance, because it has both. Most don't have resistance, but almost all have weakness. And this one is weak to electric Pokemon. The type is up here, like this one's a dark Pokemon. And this is the symbol for electric. Now, if an electric Pokemon does damage to me, it's double what the damage does. If it's 20 damage, it's 40 damage, 60 damage, 120, so on. Now, with resistance, if it does 50 damage, then it only does 30 because you take away 20 damage. And that's a fighting type. And I already went over retreat, but now GX attacks. As all of them have different requirements, it's usually just random energies, but this one's a specific dark energy. And the difference between an attack and a GX attack is you can only use one GX attack per game, not per turn, per game. And because they're very, very overpowered. Like this one is, if your opponent's active Pokemon has exactly 4 damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. And then it says you cannot use more than one GX attack in the game. Well, in the game you're currently playing. Once you start a new game, you can use it. And then one more thing is, I talked about trainers and supporters. The only difference between these is it will say trainer and an item or supporter. Supporters, you can only use one per turn unless you have an ability that says otherwise. And then trainers, you can use as many as you want per turn. And then Pokemon tools, I don't have any with me, but it'll say item on them, and then it has a thing saying like attached to a Pokemon, and it'll say like, you know, it's resistant to like fairy attacks, and that stays on the Pokemon until it dies, or you move it with a card. Those are one of the things you can remove from it. And then one more thing is card effects. There's some card effects that are really weird. I don't have it with me, but most of them is when you play them, it goes into something called your discard pile, which is right next to your deck. But some of them are like flip a coin, and if it heads, it goes back into your hand. But with this, that's not that card, but I have one like that. Most of them just go straight to the discard. Oh, and one last thing is two more things about prisms is you can only run one type of prism in your deck. So if it says Ditto, you can only run one Ditto, but you can run like a Reshiram or Zekrom or whatever, but you can only use one with the same name. And when this is knocked out, it does not go to your discard pile. It goes something called to the lost zone, where it's like over here by your prize cards, but it's flipped over and there's no way to retrieve it. But if it's in your discard pile, there are things that you can retrieve from the discard. But from the lost zone, it cannot be retrieved. Now, that is everything you have to know about the basic rules of Pokemon. It is a lot more complicated if you get into tournaments. But thank you and have a good day.